Welcome to the Whitetail Watch, produced by Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. Normally on these episodes I talk about the weather forecast, what the deer are doing, how we can use that information to make a plan for this coming weekend. And I'm going to do that on this episode, but I'm also going to talk about the trade-off between hunting the last week of October for your vacation versus the first week of November. And if you look at the calendar, you can see there's some really good opportunities for vacations that fall in what I would call two really prime times for shooting a nice buck. Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails is brought to you by Redneck Blinds, Code of Silence Apparel, Hunt Stand Pro Whitetail App, Whitetail Institute, Research Equals Results, B3 Releases, XO Broadheads, Exact Sights, and Hoyt. So looking at the forecast, it appears as if we got a nice cool front coming again this weekend. And that's really handy. We've had some nice weekend weather, for those that get out only on the weekends this time of the year, which is probably a lot of us. Most people are going to save their vacations for the best time. And I'll talk about that a little bit further in the episode. But again, looking at this weekend, looks like Saturday's going to be a little cooler. Friday's going to be hot for the most part throughout the Midwest at least. And then a little bit of a cooler trend is coming in. And I see Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all looking pretty good. And again, I don't necessarily recommend taking vacation time now to hunt this cold front. But I mean, if you're going to be out there this weekend, I think it's going to be pretty comfortable. And it's going to make sense at least to get out there and put forth some effort. I would say the closer we get to the middle of October, the closer we get to what is sort of I call it almost like a false rut or a mini rut. There are a few does that get bred in the middle of October. Very few. It's a small number. I know the biologists have tracked this information, and you can kind of see it in the fawns. Once in a while you'll see one that's just a lot bigger. You'll see a whole bunch of spotted fawns, and then you'll see one that doesn't have the spots. Well, that fawn's a month older. The doe was bred a month sooner. Generally that doesn't happen. But anyway, the point is there's usually a little flare-up of rutting activity right around the middle of October, then it dies back down again. It's almost like a false hope. I used to call it a dress rehearsal. And I did a lot of my in-season scouting after October 15th because I felt like then all the rut sign was starting to get laid out. You're starting to see the scrapes. You're starting to see more rubs. It starts to resemble more of what it's going to look like during the primary rut. So the early part of the week leads us into that time frame. So if you do have some free time, I would take advantage of it. I mean, maybe afternoons after work, early next week would still be a pretty good idea. Again, I'd save that vacation, and let me get to that in just a minute. But before I go that far, I would not be hunting necessarily rut patterns yet. I do think you could sit over a scrape if it's near a feeding area, for example. The bucks are still going to be on the bed to feed patterns, but they're going to be doing it a little bit more in daylight than maybe they have for the past couple of weeks. That's what I'd be looking to take advantage of. So now let's jump further ahead. Let's look at this trade-off between taking your vacation the last week of October versus the first week of November. And the dates really fall pretty good this year. If you take, for example, a Saturday through Sunday, the following Sunday vacation, that gives you, is that 9 days? Yes, I believe that's 9 days of vacation time. The October period would be the 25th through the 3rd, I believe, of November. That's a really nice time frame. Or the other option is November 2nd through November 10th. And that's also a really good option. So which one is better? Let's say you're sitting there right now with the option of being able to still set your vacation. You can choose between these 2 weeks. If you're hunting in the Midwest, throughout most of the northern 2/3 of the whitetails range, actually, those are the 2 weeks I'd be focused on. I like the last week of October more and more all the time. I like the weather. It's more comfortable. The older I get, the more I like, a little bit warmer conditions. But the bigger picture there is the bucks that maybe you've been really focused on going through the season or into the season are still close to home. They're still where you expect to find them. They're just moving more in daylight. And that's a really nice opportunity there. So if you're after a specific buck and you know that deer's core area, you got a pretty good bead on that deer, I think that 25th of October through the 3rd of November is probably your better option. But if on the other hand, all you're trying to do is shoot a nice buck and you're not hunting a specific one, then there's more overall buck movement and more rutting activity that takes place during that next week, which would be, in this case, November 2nd through the 10th. That's a really nice time. I feel like the November 7th is the single best day of the whole season most years. More bucks seem to fall around November 7th, plus or minus a day or two, than any other 4 to 5 day time frame throughout the whole season. So that's why I like the second option if you're not going after a specific buck. And it can still be good. I mean, even if you're hunting a deer that it's just that he's going to be a little bit more, covering a little bit more ground. He might not be quite as close to home. Maybe his pattern is starting to open up a little bit. It's going to be a little bit harder to get on him, but he may also be, covering, traveling more in daylight, but just covering more ground. I mean, they're both great weeks. But like I said, it's been over the past few years that last week of October has just seemed to be, more and more of a good opportunity to me. 2020 killed a really nice buck on the 29th of October. 2021, I had a great encounter with a really good shooter on the 28th or 29th. Ended up killing that deer 2 weeks later in the same area, but I could have got him, that first time I saw him. I should have got him. He was 10 yards away. He got away, but I ended up getting him. In 2022, I killed on Halloween. So that's again, that during that time frame when the bucks are still close to home, getting excited about the rut, but they just haven't started ranging out yet. And I think last year, 23 was the 9th of November, so that fell into that second week period. And that wasn't a buck that I was specifically hunting. The other 3 were bucks that I was hunting, and I killed them during that last week of October. So that's my advice. I hope you have a chance to at least pick and choose which dates you take off this year, and you can make this work out well. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I'll see you right back here again soon for the next episode of the Whitetail Watch, produced by Hoyt's Bowhunting Whitetails. And remember to always dream big.